Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brianna and this is For Pause and a Book. I make book and lifestyle related content, so if that's something that you're interested in, make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Today we're going to be talking about books that should have been on the Goodreads Choice Awards. So we all know that the Goodreads Choice Awards is kind of a crapshoot when it comes to like what is on that list. It's very much popularity contest. It very much has to do with what the publishing industry is like trying to push at the time. And so for that reason, I think they get a lot of things wrong. So today we are going to be talking about 13 books that I'm very confused as to why they are not on there, either because I really loved the book or because previous books in the series or previous books that the authors have put out have been on the Goodreads Choice Awards, or they're just books that me personally in my little bookternet sphere, I haven't stopped hearing about them. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to break it up by genre, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about why I liked this book or why it should have been on the Goodreads Choice Awards. We'll go from there, okay? Excuse my voice. I do have COVID at the moment, so I'm very much stuffed up. This isn't what I normally sound like if you're new here, okay? I'm going to start with YA because I only have one book for that. I haven't read a ton of YA this year, but one of the ones that I really loved was Home Field Advantage by Dahlia Adler. This is a sapphic YA romance with the cheerleader of, like the head cheerleader, and the quarterback of the football team, who is a girl because the old quarterback had died like the past summer. They couldn't find a new one, and so they like brought in this girl to become the quarterback. And as someone who really loves football, I really like this book. I think one of the things, and you'll see this in my list, Goodreads is not diverse when it comes to queer representation, POC representation, nothing, okay? Like, I've been really focusing on the romance Goodreads Choice nominees, and I think there are 4 authors of color in the top 20, so that, like, they need a lot of help. And one of the things is queer representation. I don't think they have enough of that, so I think this would have been a great opportunity to do that, and this was a great book. I gave it 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed this. Now, some mystery thriller books. Don't know why Finley Donovan Knocks 'Em Dead didn't make it into the Goodreads Choice Awards. I know this is more of like a mystery and less of a thriller, and so it probably wouldn't have done super well up against things like Stephen King and some of the like more well-known thriller authors. However, there's not a real strong contender because Riley Sager did not make it on there this year. So I don't know. I think that this would have been a great opportunity for people who don't read as much thriller to like still find a book that they enjoyed, because this is more of like a funny mystery. But this is the second book in the Finley Donovan is Killing It series, or whatever it's called. And it's like this murder mystery, and she kind of gets caught up in the like Russian mafia. It was a good time. Another one that I really thought was going to be on there would be Stay Awake by Megan Golden. I think that The Night Swim was on there, which was her book from last year. And I really like this one. This one wasn't quite as good as The Night Swim, but still a very solid thriller. And this is about a woman who can't remember what's happening every time she wakes up. And she has like Stay Awake written on her hands. It's hard to go into this book without like really spoiling it, so I'm not going to. But I do have a review for it, and I'll link it up above. But yeah, this was a really good book, and I'm very surprised that it wasn't on there, specifically because that thriller category is very weak. And then a book that I haven't read yet, but again, it's all over at least my area of the bookternet, The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead. I heard that this is a very dark, disturbing mystery. And it has like a lot of trigger warnings. It's about cults and like a woman trying to get out of a cult. I'm not sure exactly because again, I haven't read it yet, but it's all over my area of bookternet. I know that it's going to end up on a lot of people's best books of the year, so I'm very confused as to why it wasn't even nominated. In science fiction, I only have one that I think should have made it, and that's A Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers. The first book in this series, A Psalm for the Wild Built, did make the Goodreads Choice Awards last year, and so I'm confused. Like normally if the first one makes it, the second one usually does as well, especially because I think the first one did really well and like made it to the finals. This is a really cute sci-fi novella that takes place in the future with this tea monk, and they go around and like basically like provide this service for the townspeople. And then there's this robot, and the robot is like waking up to humanity and like is asking all of these questions about humanity and why we do this and what this is. And this was the most adorable book in the entire world. I definitely understand that it's not for everyone, but I really enjoyed it. And so I'm very confused. Becky Chambers is a very well-known author in the book journal, and so I don't know why that one didn't make the Goodreads Choice Awards. I have a couple in fantasy. The first one I didn't necessarily love, but again, the first book in the series made the Goodreads Choice Awards last year, and so I'm not sure why this one didn't. A Mirror Mended by Alex E. Harrow. This is a continuation of the reimagining of Sleeping Beauty. It's a sapphic retelling. It's got like Maleficent in there. And the series is really interesting. I only gave this one 3 stars. I don't think that this one was quite as good as the first one. But again, as far as Goodreads Choice Awards, usually in past years, if the first one made it, the second one usually does. And so this year is like kind of an anomaly. Another one that I think is kind of a snub, and that's Book of Night by Holly Black. I know that a lot of people don't like this book, but it's Holly Black, and she's a very well-known author in the book journal, due to her like rise of success with the Cruel Prince series. This was her adult debut, I believe. And I actually really liked it. I gave this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I probably would have voted for this because I didn't vote in the fantasy category because there wasn't a lot that I had read. But yeah, it wasn't nominated. It had the like above 3.5 to like qualify for it, which is why like Riley Sager did not make it on there, is because he didn't have a high, that like book did not have a high enough qualification score, which I think is hilarious, and because I didn't like that one, makes me happy. But this one I really liked, and I'm really surprised it didn't make it into the fantasy category. Lastly, for fantasy, a book that I haven't read, but again, popular author. The other ones in the series were nominated, and that is The River of Silver by S.A. Chakraborty. This is an addition to the Daevabad trilogy. Came out in October. Haven't heard a lot of buzz about it, so maybe that's why, is because it kind of just feels like this add-on to it. But I would have expected to see it on there. All right, lastly, the romance category I have the most options for, or the most questions behind. The first one is The Romance Recipe by Ruby Barrett. I know this one doesn't get a lot of buzz. It hasn't gotten a lot of buzz because it's queer and it's indie. But this is, like I said, a queer sapphic romance between the general manager of a restaurant and the head chef, or the owner of the restaurant and head chef. I loved this book. This one will likely make my best books of the year. It will definitely make like best romance of the year. But I haven't heard a ton of people talk about it. It is very steamy, very spicy. But this would have been a great opportunity for Goodreads to show a little bit more sapphic representation. From my understanding, there is one sapphic book in the top 20. Of the ones that I have read, one sapphic book. There are a couple of characters in like a couple of books that have bisexual main characters, but the large majority of that list is male, female, cis, het, straight romance. So this would have been a great opportunity for Goodreads to have a little more diversity. Also, another opportunity, mistakes were made by Meryl Wilsner. Mistakes were made in not putting this book on the Goodreads Choice Awards. Let me just put that out there, okay? Thank you for that pun. This is the MILF book. I think that this was so much fun. This is about a woman who goes back to her daughter's college town for family weekend, meets this woman at a bar, then meets her again the next morning at breakfast with her daughter because it's her daughter's best friend. And we go from there. And this book was so well done. So well done. And the pining, the angst, the taboo romance, we love to see it. This book was published the day that the Goodreads Choice Awards came out, which by their rules would still fit in. And I know that like gives a huge disservice to the books that end up getting published on that day. It's frustrating, I know. But we have Shipwrecked by Olivia Dade, which is the 3rd book in the Spoiler Alert series. And I'm not sure if the other books were nominated previously. I honestly did not go back and look. But this book was fantastic. It has plus-size main characters. It deals with generational trauma and childhood trauma, and it's wonderful. This book was 5 stars. I just finished reading it a couple of weeks ago, and it's fantastic. Another book that I thought was super popular, it's the Good Morning America Book Club pick. So I thought that it was pretty widely well known. And that's The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston, and it wasn't on there. But this book was fantastic. This is a book about a woman who can see ghosts, and she actually goes back to her hometown for her father's funeral, and then all of a sudden she can see her, I think it's her editor's ghost, and she's trying to figure out why. And then there's this romance between the ghost and her, and it was very well done. I very much enjoyed this book. There's a lot of grief, a lot of trauma, a lot of emotion packed into this book, but it was really good. Lastly, this one I think is just an author snub, because these authors are always in the Goodreads Choice Awards, and so I'm very confused as to why this one is not. Something Wilder by Christina Lauren. And I get it, a lot of people say that this is not actually a romance. Fine, put it in general fiction. This book probably should have been in the Goodreads Choice Awards somewhere. These authors are always there. So it's very interesting that this was not there. This is about two people who knew each other back in high school because he worked at her dad's ranch, grandfather's ranch, something. I think it's her dad's ranch. And then they come back together a decade later. They run into each other on this treasure hunt horse ride through Moab Canyon, and it was kind of like this adventure, kind of mystery, but also a second chance romance. There was a lot going on in this book, and so I get it, and I know that a lot of people didn't love this book. I had a lot of fun with this book, and I think it should have been there. Maybe not in romance, maybe in general fiction. I don't know. There are books that are in romance that aren't romances.
Looking at you, book lovers.
I don't know. I figured that they would have been in there. Anyway, those are the 13 books that I think should have been in the Goodreads Choice Awards, or at least I am surprised that they are not there. What do you think? What books did Goodreads miss? Let me know down in the comments below. If you're not feeling chatty, you can put a gold star emoji. That is all I have for you today. If you're new here and you have not yet subscribed, there's a little red button that you can do so down below the video if you would like to hang out with me more. The links to my Twitter, Instagram, Goodreads, and my Patreon are linked down in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.